With that, welcome inside this midweek edition of Big Ten Today, sponsored by Old National Bank. Rick Pizzo alongside Trent Meacham after a Tuesday night of surprises. And perhaps we should not have been as shocked to see Indiana lose at Rutgers. It's a place the Hoosiers do not fare well. We were all surprised, from Lincoln to West Lafayette and every place in between, to see Nebraska not just beat Purdue, but never trail in the second half.
Yeah, of course. To win by 16 points against what I believe, and I think most people, the best team in the country, number one. Nebraska took them to overtime last season. This year, wire to wire, pretty much got the job done. Really impressive win.
Every time that Purdue made a push, Nebraska had an answer. Perhaps the most surprising thing about this game was that Purdue never led in the second half. Boilers got maybe within one in the second half, but the big story shows you that Nebraska was not going to lose on this night. Just the fourth win all-time against an AP number one team. Their first since 1982. Their first in front of the home crowd in nearly 60 years. Keisei Tominaga was a flamethrower. Sam Hoiberg made some big shots. Rink Mast and the Bigs did a phenomenal job on Zach Edey as the Huskers celebrate what you would say is the biggest win by far of the Fred Hoiberg era. Here you see the three previous wins over number one at Missouri in 82 and the home wins over Michigan in 64 and Kansas State way back in 1958. I understand that a lot of the conversation nationwide focuses on Purdue because they were the number one team in the country heading into this game, but I think you give more credit to Nebraska than blame to the Boilermakers because they played a nearly perfect game. They did a terrific job against Zach Edey, and that offense was special.
Yeah, this was not the case of Purdue playing poorly. This was a case of Nebraska playing nearly a perfect game. Fred Hoiberg said that coming into the game, hey, we got to play at our best. They did. It was everybody, too. That's what was really impressive. You mentioned offense. We go both ways. Let's start with the offensive end. I love what they did first play of the game. Down screen for Rink Mast coming up. He hits a three. I don't know how many down screens chasing three-point shooters Zach Edey has faced all season. So they got Purdue out of what they want to do on both ends of the court, and offensively, it started with Rink Mast. He's such a hub for them, experienced guy. They use him as a pressure release valve, and so good in DHOs. Knocked down a couple threes, was effective in the post even on a couple possessions against Edey, against Caleb First. So he got it going. Our guy, Keisei Tominaga, started nailing shots that, like, there's not much you can do. And Matt Painter said this in the postgame presser. Hey, sometimes we play good defense. And these guys, Tominaga, Wiltshire in the second half, knocking down shots. Sam Hoiberg went on his own 7-0 run to finish the first half. So a number of guys from Nebraska, everybody contributed. Everybody seemed to play their role to a T, and just one of the more impressive performances I've seen.
Yeah, Wiltshire was terrific. Missed just one shot from the field, made all 5 of his free throws. He was in double figures in just 19 minutes. You mentioned Rink Mast and Tominaga, who did hit some absolute circus shots with a hand in his face from 27, 30 feet. Josiah Alec hits a really important three-pointer from the corner, a guy who is not a three-point shooter. I think it's clear that this is Fred Hoiberg's best team since he arrived in Lincoln. And this is a team based on the resume right now. And I know it's just the 10th day of January, but based on the resume right now and what lies ahead of them, this is a team that should absolutely be thinking that the NCAA tournament is a realistic possibility.
This is a tournament team in my eyes. They have the balance. They have the size. I love their experience and skill, though. 14 for 23 from three. This is a skilled team. They move the ball well. They pass it well. And how they play, it's difficult to defend. Really spread the floor. Their 5-man is oftentimes a point center, run a lot of back screens and down screens into DHOs. Gave Purdue some fits. And Purdue, I don't think, was bad on that end of the floor. Just Nebraska's personnel and how they play, how they spread the floor and move it to side is really impressive. Then one of the guys throw out there, Bryce Williams, wasn't great scoring, but 9 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, a big guard, got a lot of things done, even a few blocks on the inside. Again, an all-around dominating performance for the Huskers.
And we didn't even mention Juwan Gary, who did not have a big game in terms of stats, but again, great energy, great effort for the acronym challenge, the DHO, the dribble handoff, for anybody that isn't exactly sure what exactly Trent's talking about. 88-72 is the final. So let's look at the other side of the coin and Purdue. I know Matt Painter said that some of those shots, they're just going to go. We didn't play bad defense. But there were moments in this game where it seemed like it was getting away from his team. He had to take a couple of timeouts that are uncharacteristic of what he likes to do throughout the course of the game. How much do we put into this? And now the back-to-back struggles for Zach Edey, because Edey had 15 in this game, but most of them came in garbage time, and he really didn't do much until late in the game against Illinois last weekend either.
Look, this Purdue team's really, really good, okay? They are 1-2 on the road this season. And you get in the Big Ten Conference play, and their teams, they're going to be scouted as well as anybody. You look at what Nebraska did, and they put a lot of pressure on Zach Edey and Braden Smith. They said, okay, we want other guys to beat them. They gave up 13 threes. Purdue did not shoot the ball well, but I would expect to see other teams, okay? Let's force them out of what they do so well. We're going to keep two guys on the ball screen like they did with Braden Smith. Every time Edey gets a touch, we're sending 2 and 3, and I thought Nebraska's help side and rotations, they were on point for 40 minutes last night. I would expect other teams to do that. So how does Purdue now, one, play on the road? Okay, they haven't been great this season in limited games, but how do they play out of closeouts? I thought they could attack the closeouts much better. Lance Jones there in the second half had a great drive to the basket, but they settled for threes too much. Almost 60% of their shots last night were threes. They shoot the ball well, but they got to play more inside out. And I want some of that has to be attacking off the bounce, and not just to Zach Edey when they're pretty much selling the farm on Edey.
And obviously, we have almost unreal expectations for the big guy. I said he didn't do much against Illinois. Had a huge game rebounding, just didn't really score. It had a double-double, had 15 and 7 in this one. But in the first half, when you have 2 points and 2 fouls and you're the reigning national player of the year, your team's not going to be in great shape. And that was the case. I do think they need to drive the ball more. I also think there was a little bit last night of the hesitancy to shoot the ball in open positions. A couple of times from Fletcher Lawyer, maybe once or twice from a couple of other guys. You have open shots. You're that good a shooting team. You got to take them.
Well, they made 13 threes. They took 33 of them, though, about 60% of their shots. I look at that compared to Nebraska. They took 23 threes, made 14. So both teams shot the ball well. Obviously, Nebraska was lights out. But it just felt like Nebraska wanted those shots, and Purdue was like, okay, we have them, so I think I should take this because I'm open, as opposed to, no, I got the shot, I want to take it. I thought Mason Gillis had that attitude, but besides him, the others were like, this isn't really our first option, so I guess I'll take it, whereas Nebraska, man, they had an opening or even just a sliver of daylight, they let loose.
Yeah, crazy Tuesday night in hoops. Number 1, Purdue goes down. Number 2, Houston loses to Iowa State as well, as the top 2 teams lose on the same night. Does not happen very often in college basketball. One thing that has happened a lot as of late, much to the chagrin of Hoosier fans, Indiana struggling against Rutgers. For the 9th time in the last 11 matchups with the Scarlet Knights, Indiana goes down. Haven't won at Jersey Mike's Arena since 2018, before it was even named Jersey Mike's Arena, when we still love to call it the Rack. I'm trying to figure out this Indiana team, and we'll get to the Hoosiers in just a bit, but you've got to give Rutgers a ton of credit. And this is the way that Steve Pikiell wants to play games in the 50s, games in the 60s, and just frustrate opposing teams. That's exactly what happened to Indiana. They just appeared for 40 minutes to be frustrated on both ends of the court.
Defensively, they changed their defenses a little bit. They pressure, they played some zone. They put Cliff Amore on Malik Reneau. I thought that was really key. Yes, Khalil Ware got loose a little bit, had a good game, 13 and 17, but Amore did a good job on Reneau, who I think is really Indiana's focal point. Forced 18 turnovers, held Indiana to sub 40% shooting, 9 steals out of those 14 turnovers. So that allows Rutgers then to get out in transition where they're at their best. 7 blocks as well. Cliff Amore, not scoring a lot, but 7 blocks, really cleans up a lot on the interior. And that's with guarding a guy like Reneau. So really impressive on that end of the floor. That's where they have to hang their hat. And then rebounding, out-rebounded Indiana by 11. And they had 11 more offensive rebounds. It's inexcusable for Indiana with that size of front line, but Rutgers, they put their hard hats on. They're in New Jersey. When they're playing that style of basketball, they're really tough, especially at home. And
that's what I was going to bring up. That has become, and last night with the storm on the East Coast, a lot of folks couldn't make it that normally would be there. That has just become such a home court advantage for this program, really ever since Steve Pikiell took over. They just play so much better at home than they do on the road.
And it's been a while since any road team in the Big Ten. All weekend, all the home teams won, but yet going to Jersey Mike's there in New Jersey is really tough for anybody, especially with that style basketball. It's going to be a little bit uglier when it's that way. That plays to Rutgers' favor. I thought offensively, though, 5 guys in double figures. This is a balanced team. And in the guts of the game, this is a 1-point game, Austin Williams really took the reins. He had a great driving layup. He had 2 offensive rebounds, one that led to he assisted a 3, and then the next he put back himself. Then another basket in transition. So he made some key plays and went from a 1-point game to an 11-point game. Mawat Mag got out in the fast break. They ballooned it to 13 points there midway through the second half. So, yes, in the guts of the game, when it could have been anybody's game, Xavier Johnson was out.
Well, let's stop there because
Okay.
it went from 1 point to double digits after the Xavier Johnson flagrant and ejection. He gets Antoine Woolfolk in the manish area where nobody really wants to be hit, but it was very obvious that he reached around and did something you just can't do. And for a guy coming off injury, for a guy that's as experienced as Xavier Johnson is, to make that mistake at that moment, that's, to me, inexcusable.
It really is. This is a 6-year guy. This is their leader, their point guard. He missed a lot of last season most of last season with injury. Is back this year, has been injured, and just now getting back, had a really good game at home, 18 points against Ohio State, led them to the win. Without him, they're a different team. And so for an experienced guy, for your leader to pull that in a game, man, that cost them that road game, and we'll see moving forward. Is this a guy that they can rely on? You know, because they need him.
It's a fair question.
And if he's playing at his best, if he's locked in and a leader, this is a really good team. With you look at that front line. But if not, they have a lot of question marks.
Well, look at the guards because you have the stats up right there, right? The point totals between Xavier Johnson, Trey Galloway, and Gabe Cupps.
Yeah.
You get the 3 of them together. I don't think they got to 10 points between those 3 guys together. You have to have more perimeter production than that.
Yeah, they had 12 points last night, so they're right there. And that's kind of where they've been at on season almost. With as good of their front line is, okay, Rick, they got to rebound the ball better. They're not there. They got to be better there, but they need a little bit of production from their backcourt. C.J. Gunn seems to be more confident now, which is good, but they got to have their 6th-year senior point guard on the court and playing to his strength, leading that team. If not, you know, this team they're going uphill.
Here's the best news of all for Indiana. No more trips to New Jersey, at least this year, for the Hoosiers. We're just getting started here on Big Ten Today. The league's last unbeaten hit began on Monday in Houston, but what a scene on the Michigan campus throughout the course of the night as the students packed the Chrysler Center to watch their Wolverines in the CFP title game. Everyone headed home happy after a quarter century of waiting came to an end with Michigan's first national championship since the 1997 season. You could say the Wolverines are running wild, which is exactly what they did on Monday night. Our big stat presented by Old National focuses on Michigan's 303 rush yards against Washington, 3rd most all-time in any college football playoff game. And after ending that 26-year title drought, these Wolverines are also now the only Big Ten team ever to win 15 games in a single season.
It's been a team effort all the way. Nothing fancy, no surprises, just good old-fashioned, roll up your sleeve, hard work and teamwork. It's been a beautiful thing. It's so often the goal is you're chasing perfection, and it's hard to be perfect, and rarely comes around. And you hope to achieve excellence along the way, but gosh, yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect 15-0. Congratulations. It wasn't just resolution, guys just talking about it. It was repetition, daily repetition, good old-fashioned hard work and teamwork. There's so many guys that made so many contributions, players, coaches, staff, and we went through a lot of things. I mean, getting to the CFP and not winning, that kind of thing, not being, some of those games. 2016, I mean, coming up, we thought that measurement was short. The 4th down, we thought we were. But sometimes you got to go through those things. You got to go through things. To get where you are, it's meant to be. Just lean on the counsel of God. And the Holy Spirit, and there's a time and a place. Our guys have never flinched though, and never rejected the moment. You know, there's a time to live, there's a time to die, but there's never a time to reject the moment. And that's one thing I can say about, you know, every single Michigan football team that I've coached since I've been here. The guys have always given it their best and had at it. And, you know, this team 144, you know how I feel about them. I think they are the team. So, great.
I just want to be remembered as a Michigan man, someone who, you know, did good on the field, but also did good in the community, did good in the classroom, and, you know, laid a foundation for the next generation. You know, when I pass away, I honestly don't want to be remembered for, you know, a touchdown record or anything like that, but more so just a kind human being that brought smiles to people's faces and just made a difference, you know, made an impact on and off the field. That's honestly how I want to be remembered. And, you know, talking about the journey, it was a great journey, just from, you know, where we started freshman year during COVID and to where we are now. It was truly a great process, a great learning experience. And for me, going down last year and, you know, in my mind, I just felt like I was helpless during the TCU game. It was a great journey. You know, I grew as a man, I grew as a football player, and most importantly, I grew as a leader, which I think has helped, you know, Team 144 get to where we are today, along with the rest of the leaders on the team. And so, you know, I've embraced every part of this, and, you know, I just want to thank Coach Arbor for everything he's done. Best coach in the nation. I'm so glad, you know, I've been coached by him for the last 4 years.
Can I get that in writing?
Most definitely.
Now, they say everything, including championship celebrations, are bigger in Texas, but nothing feels quite like returning home as conquering heroes. And after leading Michigan to its first natty in more than a quarter century, the Wolverines were back on campus Tuesday, where the party will continue throughout the week, leading up to Saturday's championship parade.
It was a mission. It had lofty aspirations and high goals, and we never lost sight of it. We never lost sight of those goals. We never lost sight of the mission. We completed the mission. And I want to thank all of you for coming out here tonight. You're weathering the storm just like the 2023 Michigan football team weathered the storm. Y'all don't know how much we appreciate y'all from the bottom of our heart, from the bottom of our hearts, all the love and support y'all have from us from day one. When the whole world doubted us, when the whole world didn't think we could do it, guess what we said? Go! Hey, I just gotta say this. I don't know how I can leave y'all. It's just everything about this place just made it home for me, and I just love every single one of y'all from the bottom of my heart. And it's all about the team here. You guys are included. You guys are the team, so we appreciate you so freaking much and love you guys. Go Blue!
Every time J.J. McCarthy speaks near a Michigan crowd, you hear the same response: one more year. Since the advent of the forward pass, only two quarterbacks have won a title with 5 or fewer turnovers for the entire season in at least 15 starts. That includes the postseason. One was Tom Brady in 2016. The other, in 2016, ending in the Super Bowl comeback. The other is Ohio State's J.J. McCarthy. And I mentioned that championship parade. It comes your way Saturday, and we will cover it right here on the Big Ten Network. Exclusive national championship celebration coverage from Ann Arbor, and the parade comes your way 7 o'clock Eastern on Saturday right here on the Big Ten Network. We will talk Big Ten women's hoops next, as one of the buy heavily on Jacy Sheldon. Look at this list. 3 Buckeye players since 2000 have left Columbus with at least 1,700 points and 200 steals. They are Samantha Perhalis, Taylor Hill, Kelsey Mitchell. What do they all have in common? They were first-round WNBA picks. Sheldon already on this list, but some time still left to play during her career in Columbus. And that is where we head right now for the big interview, as Jacy Sheldon is kind enough to join us. Jacy, first and foremost, welcome in. Happy holidays. I think I can still say Happy New Year. We appreciate you taking some time here on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, Jacy, I want to talk first about what you've been doing lately in terms of scoring the basketball. You've had 3 30-point games in the last month alone. What for you is working right when you're scoring the basketball at that kind of clip?
Yeah, I think what's huge for us is our defense. We like to, throw that press on people early, get things going in transition. And lately we've been moving the ball really well. So I think we're starting to gel a lot as a team and moving it and getting things going early, which has helped us.
Obviously, points per game is one fun stat, but I look at your shooting percentage and you're better than 55%, which is really good, obviously, for a guard who takes some of your shots in the perimeter. How much of your focus when you're playing really well is about the right shot and your overall shot selection?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. I think we emphasize that a lot too at practice. And you mentioned the percentage. That's probably too high. It probably means I need to take a couple more shots. But for us, like I mentioned earlier, the big thing is getting the ball moving and getting the extra pass and getting somebody open. So that's been our focus, and I think we've done a pretty good job of it.
Now, as good as those stats are, our crack research team tells me that there's one stat in which you're kind of lagging behind your teammates, and that's the season-long competition for the dub chain. Can you tell us what exactly that is and why you're behind those teammates?
Yeah, so the dub chain is something, it's a tradition we've started, I think, just maybe a year ago. And we get it out after every game to the player most deserving. So kind of the one who made an impact, the biggest impact on our win. And it's really special to us. It's something we've kind of enjoyed from the start. So it's been pretty cool. As far as me being behind, I can't speak on that. I'm happy for everyone who's got it. I think everyone who's got it is very deserving. And the best part is we get to celebrate each other. And that's something this team really likes to do.
We were just watching some video of the celebration of Coach McGuff kind of giving out those chains. So how many chains exist? 2 per game?
So there is normally just one. Sometimes they actually surprised us a couple games and gave out 2. So we were surprised with you guys. We didn't know that there were 2, but it's pretty cool when that does happen.
I mean, they look like they're protected pretty well. Careful cases, making sure they don't get scratched.
Absolutely. Ryan, one of our coaches, brings them out in a briefcase. So it's the real deal.
Absolutely love it. That kind of fun, and I think the style of the game right now has helped women's basketball become as popular as it's ever been. What's it like to be playing a sport when it's at its very peak?
It's exciting. It's exciting. I think that, especially what women's basketball specifically is going through and the growth and attention it's getting, it's awesome to be a part of that. And then as far as, being a part of the pace of the game and the pace we play at, I think is also helping women's basketball a lot too. And it's more enjoyable and really fun to watch. And I think you're starting to see that.
And it's not just women's basketball, it's women's sports in general. This fall, we saw the first ever women's volleyball game on national television with a Fox broadcast. I know you guys have a game coming up that'll be broadcast by NBC against Iowa. The profile and being part of something that is getting bigger than it's ever been before, how much conversation is that amongst you, your teammates, and the other female student athletes at Ohio State?
Yeah, it's special. It's really special. You mentioned volleyball, and I have a lot of friends that played volleyball, and just seeing everything their sport was able to do too is really cool. And then as far as that Iowa game, I mean, that's really exciting, and we're looking forward to it. We have 3 really tough matchups in the Big Ten before then, so that's where our focus is right now.
I know you don't love to look back at last year and talk much about that injury because it is something that's in the past, but how much of what you went through last year is fueling what you're doing this year?
Yeah, a lot of it. I think more than anything, it's just keeping myself accountable and on top of my rehab just to make sure that situation doesn't happen again. But I learned a lot from it. It was a learning experience for me, and got to be a part of the team in a different way and lead in a different way. So more than anything, though, I'm really, really excited to be back out there with these girls because we got a really special group.
When you came back and you got to play in the tournament and you had 17-7-5 in that phenomenal historic win over UConn, was there a belief at that point? Did you already know, first of all, that you were going to come back for your COVID year? And at that point, especially after that win, I know you're thinking about just that NCAA tournament, but were you thinking already about how bright the future could be for this team?
Yeah, I think, I hadn't made a decision. I kind of kept my focus on, chasing that championship. But as far as our group we had, it's a special group, and I knew that. And that obviously played a huge part in my decision. And the girls we have and the talent we have, I wasn't ready to let that go. And I think we still got a lot of work to do this year, but I'm excited to see what we can do.
For you individually, a bunch of honors already. You've been second team All Big Ten, then first team All Big Ten, All Defensive Team. You were an honorable mention All-American. What do you feel is left to accomplish for Jacy Sheldon, the basketball player?
Yeah, I think, getting this group to our peak is my focus. I think, like I said, the talent we have is awesome and the group we have is a really good one. So just being able to, accomplish all those team goals. Obviously, the Big Ten is a really good league. And then after Big Ten play, chasing that championship is always our goal.
Personally, JC, you have a sibling, your sister Emmy, with Down syndrome, who I know is kind of the unofficial member of the Ohio State team with the squad a lot. Seen some video of her celebrating with the team, getting them ready pregame. I saw an interview with your mom in which she said that she has given every bit as much to you as you have given back to her. What do you think your mom meant by that?
Yeah, I don't even realize probably what I do for her, but the impact she's had on me is huge, and not only me but this team. And it's really special that I think the world's getting to see her through the lens that we do. But she's really special. She's my best friend. She's someone that has pushed me to be my best in really every aspect of my life. So she's awesome.
And I love it when people listen closely, maybe at some home Ohio State games and opposing players are shooting free throws and you hear some really loud, even blood-curdling screams right there to throw off those free throw shooters. That is Emmy. How effective has she been throughout her Ohio State career in doing that?
She's very effective. We had a game in the Bahamas where there weren't a lot of people there, and that's when I noticed how much she does pay attention and how much of an impact she does make. So she's learning the game. She's got no choice with our family, but it's really cool to see her adapt to the game and learn.
There may be just one Sheldon officially on the team, but we know there are truly two, Jacy and Emmy. Jacy, it's been absolutely great to catch up. So much fun to watch you. Wish you and the Buckeyes the best of luck throughout the course of the rest of the season. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, great stuff from Ohio State guard. Look at the Big Ten men's basketball standings. We're basically halfway through the season. Not the Big Ten season, but the season as a whole. Only one Big Ten team still unbeaten in the league. Wisconsin at 3-0. Only one Big Ten team has yet to win a Big Ten game as well. Of course, Wisconsin puts that unbeaten record on the line tonight when they travel to Columbus. Welcome back inside our Big Ten Today studio. Rick Pizzo rejoined by Trent Meacham. As you start to look ahead to the second half of the season, with those standings in mind, with what everything has happened to this point, and I know the answer to this question because I can see the graphic of Dawson Garcia behind you, I'm going to ask you which team and why offers you the most intrigue for what they have left in the course of the season.
Intrigue for the season is definitely the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I like this group. Okay, we think back just recent memory, and they just didn't have the Big Ten talent. Now this year they have the horses to compete. And I'll start on the inside. When you think of guys like Dawson Garcia, really talented guy, next level player, Pharrell Payne, even a guy like Parker Fox off the bench. So they have the muscle, the size, they're a good rebounding team. And then they have a point guard, Elijah Hawkins, number 2 in the country, leads all major conference players in assists per game, almost 8 assists per game. He's been on a tear. He's a different point guard than what you see in this conference. Small, undersized, but quick and gets to wherever he wants to in the half court. And now he's spraying it around to some good three-point shooters, Cam Christie, Mitchell. I mean, this team is loaded. Hawkins, all these guys are around 40% from three. So you have that point guard, you have shooters around them, and then you have some good interior post plays or throwing lobs. I mean, we haven't really thought much of Minnesota in recent years, but this is a different group. They're off to a great start, and they're going to definitely be one to contend with.
Well, we haven't really seen a Ben Johnson team healthy.
That's right.
They have been beset by injuries basically ever since he got to Minneapolis. They're 12-3 overall. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and among those 3 losses, remember they lost to Missouri. They're up by 18 midway through the second half. That's a game obviously Minnesota would love to have back. But a couple of really important wins lately for a Gopher team that we believe can get some stuff done.
And I would say maybe the best thing that happened to them was Dawson Garcia going down against Nebraska. They were down big in that first half. They fought back, got that win in their first conference game, and I think they kind of discovered, hey, he's their go-to guy. But we have a lot of other good pieces, and it seemed like everybody raised their game. Now Garcia's back in the lineup. They're not just relying on him, but they do have a guy they can still play through.
Without Garcia, they scored 50-plus in that second half to knock off Nebraska in a game that they absolutely had to have. Speaking of the Huskers, I think they're obviously a team now that's going to offer a little bit of interest after what they did to Purdue on Tuesday night. I think your point about the importance and effectiveness of Rink Mast in that game here's a guy who can play down low, but here's a guy who can step out to knock down some three-pointers. When you can do that in this league against the bigs that you have to face every night, some of whom that don't want to go out to 18, 20 feet, that really makes Nebraska a dangerous offensive team.
Yeah, and Rick, I had them on this list before last night's win. They are an intriguing team because of how they play, and it starts with Rink Mast. Because as your five-man, big guy can step in away. He's hit 2 threes the last 2 games. And this team across the board, they're experienced and they're skilled. They share the ball well. They move it well. 7 guys hit a three-pointer last night. So Tominaga with 5. C.J. Wilcher with 3, but we saw.
Did Fred Hoiberg maybe have one from the bench as well?
Well,
he can still make them. His son did.
His son played great. So just a really balanced team that's experienced and skilled. I like you put those things together and how they play, all centering around Rink Mast. This is another tough team. Minnesota, Nebraska, probably my 2 most intriguing teams. I'm excited to see how they do the second half of the season.
And now Nebraska, after beating Michigan State and after beating Purdue, rooting for those teams to run the table now through the second half of the regular season, unless they see them a second time, because obviously that helps Nebraska in the net. Say what you will about the net. I have plenty to say, but we don't have enough time to say it on this particular show. Penn State has been fascinating because they've been a little bit up and down. Mike Rhodes trying to install a new system. He brought Ace Baldwin with him from VCU. We saw Baldwin in the comeback win over Michigan at the Palestra on Saturday. Dropped 25, was terrific. They won that game despite big-time struggles from Kanye Clary, who's kind of their more consistent scorer in the backcourt. This is a team that I think, Trent, once they figure out exactly how Mike Rhodes wants to play, meshing the style that was there when he arrived and what he brings with him from VCU, I think this is a team that nobody wants to face because of the style they're going to play.
Yeah, exactly. They're intriguing because they're a different look for teams. And then in that backcourt, Ace Baldwin and Kanye Clary, 2 undersized guards, but they can give opponents fist. How they pressure 94 feet, a different style than you see most nights in the Big Ten. Now, Michigan State really ran them out of the gym. But the next time out against Michigan, they ran them out of the gym in the second half. So that backcourt can really create havoc. And then I think as a shooting team, they're about 30% on the season. I think that will improve. And if that does improve with the way they can play full court, if they're knocking down shots, especially guys like Zach Hicks, Puff Johnson, if they can shoot the ball better, they're going to surprise some people.
Kudus Wahab did a nice job in the second
did.
half against Michigan. They're going to have some kind of inside presence that he would kind of give them after that game. Mike Rhodes said, listen, here's a guy who's been around. I mean, he started his career at Maryland, spent time at Georgetown, now he's at Penn State. It's a lot of trips for Wahab, but he's been around the block and a guy they'll need some stuff from on the inside. You just brought up Michigan State, who demolished Penn State, but then Michigan State comes back and gets, in what Tom Izzo's own words, was embarrassed by Northwestern. Did not like the way that they played, did not like their effort, did not like the rebounding. And if you were with us for the post-game show, he went on a rant about his team. And he said, listen, you can't blame the players now. That's not the way college basketball is. You have to blame the coaches. And I'm not doing a good enough job because my guys aren't tough enough. They responded the first time he made that statement, which happened earlier in the year. We wonder and we wait to see if they respond once again.
Well, you beat me to it because, yes, they won 5 in a row and really played great basketball in that
Demolished
stretch.
Baylor.
So a lot of this is because of Tom Izzo, and I just expect him to get this team right. I feel like they are getting there, drop one where they didn't play up to their par on Sunday against Northwestern, but they were shooting so poorly early in the season. Now they're at 36% from 3 on the year, so that's improving. Trey Holloman has shot it well. Jay Akins is shooting it better. I think the keys, though, are always A.J. Hogard. After a slow start, he's been far more consistent, and Malik Hall. He goes for 18 and 24 in the 2 previous games, then lays an egg against Northwestern. He's got to play better. He gives them somebody that they can play through on the interior, that's a versatile guy, gives them a different look. But when you look at those guards, when you think about who's roaming the sidelines, leading this unit, Jackson Kohler just kind of getting going. He could give them a little bit of a different look on the interior. They're a very intriguing team and one that I think could make a great push here in the second half.
To me, with Hall, Hogard, Walker, Akins, this team is way too talented, way too experienced to be 9-6 through 15 games. I haven't looked at Mike DeCourcy's updated bracket today. But right now, I'd have to think that they're nowhere near.
They can't be in there. I'll be surprised if they're there now. Now, I'd also be surprised if they're not there in 2 months.
Sure, fair, and that's the only thing that really matters is if you're there on Selection Sunday. Illinois is a different team without Terrence Shannon Jr. We wait for all the legal stuff to play out. Obviously, his legal team has filed a temporary restraining order trying to get that suspension that Illinois issued against Shannon rescinded so that he can play. We're going to move on, assuming that for right now, he's not part of this team and that Marcus Damask is. I got to see the Purdue-Illinois game in person on Friday night.
Yeah.
A couple of Purdue fans asked me, who's this number 3 for Illinois? Here's a guy that, in my mind, could average, especially if Shannon is out for the rest of the year. I'm not shocked if he goes for 25 per game the rest of the year.
Well, in the 3 games that Shannon's been out, he's 23 points and 7 assists. Those 7 assists are about as big as that 20-plus points because he's the focal point for them offensively. Another unique player. And Illinois has kind of adopted this booty ball system, and none other than Marcus Damask, who's terrific with his back to the basket, versatile guy. Once he gets into the paint, best footwork in the league, knows how to use his body, knows angles, and the assertiveness, the confidence that he's playing with, it's on a different level. I noticed it early in that Northwestern game, goes for 30-plus. Then in the second half, 20 points on the road at Purdue in an environment like that. That shows, hey, this guy can play. And then the team around him. Quincy Guerrier's been in double-double those 3 games. Coleman Hawkins is playing well. You have Luke Goody, Justin Harmon knocking down shots. The question mark, this team is intriguing. Question mark is Ty Rodgers has been playing really well. Purdue put Zach Edey on him and really kind of nullified him. Rodgers, a big athletic guard, does his work in the paint on the offensive glass and really took him out of the game. We'll see if other teams, try a similar strategy against them.
I love that you bring up the phrase booty ball because that was really popularized in the Big Ten last year by Jalen Pickett, who pulled it on everybody. And Chris Collins, after Illinois ran Northwestern out of the gym, basically said, that's exactly what Damask did to us. He did what Jalen Pickett did to basically everybody in the Big Ten over the last couple of years, playing that booty ball, really hard to defend. Damask and this team still in a little bit of a flux as they wait on the decision with Terrence Shannon, but a team that I think right now is really dangerous. Role identification is something that Brad Underwood said. Now it's clear with Shannon off the floor. I think Damask benefits more than anybody else. Indiana, we talked about the loss to Rutgers at the beginning of the show. I'm just not sure what to make of this team. I'm not sure where to believe or not believe in this team, regardless of who the coach is, regardless of Malik Renew, who I think is a really good player, and Khalil Ware. I just right now, based on what I've seen, don't know what to expect every night they take the floor.
Yeah, they're intriguing to me, Rick, because I look at, starting with their front line, I think Khalil Ware, who's playing well, Malik Renew, that tandem on the interior could be the best 4-5 in the league. So you have that. Mackenzie Mbako, 5-star freshman, has become more consistent, and I only expect him to improve the second half of the season. But they're intriguing. They're frustrating even to watch because the backcourt needs to play better. I've always been a big fan of Trey Galloway. Now, he's probably had too much on his plate in terms of what he needs to produce. They got to have Xavier Johnson, and he, was eliminated from the game last night for the punch that he threw, and that's, they need him playing at his best. And if they are, man, I think this team could be very, very good. Hopefully Gabe Cupp, C.J. Gunn seems to be more confident, but they need that backcourt to play better. And if they are, again, they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, just waiting for that really important big win, right?
Yes.
What's the best win that they've had this year of those 11? They had the chance against Kansas, but came up just a little bit short. Indiana, 11-5 overall, 3-2 in the Big Ten. And that's the key. In the Big Ten, you're going to have plenty of opportunities to improve that resume much earlier than the time that we get to the Big Ten tournament. Columbus, Ohio State looks to get back on track. Roddy Gale's been terrific. Bruce Thornton as well. They have a lot of different pieces, but no one has been able to figure out Wisconsin. And who are these Badgers scoring 80-plus in each of the last 3 games?
Wisconsin was at their best against Nebraska. I mean, how they shot the ball, how they shared the ball. This is a top 10 efficient team on the year. And the scary thing is for opponents, they've been incredibly efficient. They're only shooting about 34% from 3. So with that slew of shooters, they go 12 for 26 against Nebraska. Shoot it great. I think that's going to improve over the course of the season. They share the wealth. Multiple guys can get it done. They got Crowell in the post. He can also step away. Tyler Wall's playing better. A.J. Storr plays above the rim. Just a different level athlete that Wisconsin has not had. Chucky Hepburn, even Connor Seaton, a guy that hadn't really been playing much. He gets 4 threes against Nebraska. So this Wisconsin team, they play both sides of the floor. They control the pace like they always do. but they have more firepower than in recent memory.
I think really important to see Wall back and back healthy. He's playing like he did a couple of years ago before the injury. As for Ohio State, you return home. To me, this is one of those games that you almost have to have because you're at home. You have a top 25 opponent. You're coming off a loss. You can get back on track. They're 8-1 at home this season. I think it's a really important game for them to improve that to 9-1.
They're coming off a game where they out-rebounded Indiana by 22, but lost. Now, they had 14 turnovers. They did not shoot the ball well from three. I think rebounding is going to be so crucial. Both these teams are at the top of the league in rebounding. So who can control the glass? That helps you control the pace. When you're going on the road at the Kohl Center against the Badgers, if you can control the pace of the game, Bruce Thornton is about one of the best. Does not turn the ball over, gets to his spots, can score for himself and distribute. He's going to have to control the game, but those bigs are going to have to control the paint.
That's tonight, 8:30 Eastern, second half of our Wednesday night doubleheader. The first half, Northwestern, Penn State. Each team, big win this past weekend. We discussed Northwestern just throttling Michigan State and taking the Spartans completely out of their game. Penn State with that comeback win over Michigan. I start with Northwestern because when this team is at its best, we see the way it played against Michigan State, the way it beat Purdue on its home floor.
That's right.
Of course, this game is on the road, so you don't have that benefit with you for Chris Collins.
Yeah, both teams force a lot of turnover. So Penn State, we saw them really get Michigan out what they want to do. So can Northwestern take care of the ball? They typically do with that 3-4 guard lineup. I think some of the guard matchups are going to be really good. I would expect Ace Baldwin and Boo Buie. Ace Baldwin, former A-10 player, defensive player of the year. That matchup. And then Ty Berry, probably Northwestern's best perimeter defender against Kanye Clary, who's just so tough keeping out of the paint with how quick, how athletic he is. Northwestern, though, shot the ball so well in their previous game. And both these teams, interesting, they came off bad losses. Northwestern to Illinois, Penn State to Michigan State, where they really turned it around. So who can respond well to some success in their last game will be important.
And I think for Northwestern, again, I brought up the net. I don't like the way it's calculated. But Penn State is a tough team to play against. Yes. This can be a tough place to play. And a Northwestern loss here just crushes you in the net because of where Penn State sits. I think this is a game where, especially coming off the kind of win that they had against Michigan State, you got to mentally be dialed in and focused for a very different environment and a very different team.
No doubt. Take care of the ball. And one guy on Northwestern is Luke Hunger. So they started him in the last game. Doesn't play a ton of minutes, had 10 points. He's a guy that can step away, too, and knock down some shots from that center position. If he can give them that, that's huge. And then a guy for Penn State, DeMarco Dunn, in the three-guard lineup, is a guy that's very capable as another scorer.
You know, speaking of hunger, I think it's time for an afternoon snack. Good stuff from Trent Meacham, and it was awesome to catch up with Jacy Sheldon on this edition of Big Ten Today. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great afternoon.